Good morning. In this lecture video, we are going to cover a topic called wires and cables. In wires, we are going to see the definition of a wire, types of wires, and finally, factors affecting the choice of wire. Next, onto the cables, we are going to see what is a cable, definition of a cable, and classifications of a cable, and finally, factors affecting the choice of a cable. First one, a wire is a single conductor or it can be of a group of conductor which are covered by an insulating material. If you recollect, you did breadboard experiments in your BEE lab. While performing the experiment, you used connecting wires. If you might have observed, for that connecting wires, we have only one single core, one conducting material inside it, and over that there is a protective PVC coating. Protective PVC coating. So this type of wire is called as a single strand wire. Since we have only one single core or one single conducting material, this is a single strand wire. So we can call this one as a single conductor or a single strand insulated wire, as it is insulated. But whereas if you observe in our house wiring, these type of wires are not used. Generally a wire generally a wire will be present with an insulating material. Generally a wire will be present with an insulating material. Inside the insulating material there will be multiple thin wires will be present. These thin wires are called as a strands. So this type of a wire is called as a stranded wire. Between the two strands there won't be any insulating material. They are just adjacent to each other. The current may flow from one strand to other strand internally. So this type of a wire is called as a stranded wire. So in conclusion, a single conductor or a group of conductors or strands covered with an insulating material is called as a wire. Wires are generally used to carry electrical signal in telecommunication signals, or also they are used in electrical systems to transfer power from one place to other place. Now moving on to the classifications. The wires are basically classified into two types. The first one is a solid wire, the second one is a stranded wire. I think we already discussed in the introduction, which is this one is called as a solid wire and this one is called as a stranded wire. In a solid wire, there will be a single conducting material. Over that single conducting material, there will be insulating material to protect humans or other equipment from electrocution. Moving on, we are going to discuss the second point in solid wire after the stranded wire. Moving on to the stranded wire. In stranded wire, a thin wires, they are called strands. These strands are twisted together, and over that stranded wire, there will be a protective coating. So, if you look into the cross section of a solid wire and a stranded wire, of a same size, this is a solid wire. This is a solid wire. The entire region is filled with the conducting material which is generally of a copper or aluminum, but as in a stranded wire, if you observe between the two strands there will be a little air gap present. Due to this air gap, the solid wire will have a less resistance, whereas a stranded wire will have a high resistance. Moving on to the next point, the solid wire is more brittle, whereas a stranded wire is flexible. Moving on, factors affecting the choice of wire. These are the following factors which are need to be considered while choosing the wire. The first one is size of wire. Depending upon the application, the size of wire plays a major role. For electronic applications or low power applications, we need thin wires, whereas to transmit high power from one substation to other substation or over the transmission line, we need bulky wires. Generally, the size of a wire is measured in gauges, which is a standard wire measuring system given by American wire gauge system. Moving on, the color coding of a wire. The color coding of a wire does not play any crucial role in performance of the system, but it plays a major role while maintaining the system. Because to maintain a system, we know which wire is carrying what type of signal. Let's suppose say we have a single phase system. This type of a system is generally observed in domestic loads. In domestic loads, for a line wire or a phase wire, we should use a red or brown color wire, whereas for a neutral wire, we should use black or blue color wire, and for the earth, we need use green color wire. Similarly, for a three-phase system, we generally will have a three phases, which is R phase, Y phase, B phase. The R phase is represented with a red color, Y phase with a yellow color, B phase with a blue color. In three-phase supply, we also will have a neutral wire and a earth wire. The color coding for a neutral wire and earth wire is similar to that of a single phase, which is for a neutral wire we should use black or blue, and for a green and for a earth wire we should use green color wire. Moving on to the lettering of wire. If you observe any insulated wire, over that wire there will be some bunch of letters. In this bunch of letters you may observe the letter T, the letter H. These letters will indicate of which material the insulating material is made. If it is lettered T, the insulating material is made up of thermoplastic, and if it is lettered H, then it is made up of heat resistance insulating material. So for different applications we need to use different types of insulating material. For example, if you are using a wire at extremely hot environment, we need to choose letter H, which is heat resistance insulating type wire. Moving on to the next concept, which is cables. Now, what is a cable? When a two or more wires twisted together, then it forms a cable. Simply, it is a combination of two or more wires. Now, the cables are most widely used in underground power transmission, and it is also used in electronic and telecommunication signals. As a wire is an insulating material, Inside a wire there will be a core conducting material, and bunch of these wires are twisted together to form a cable. Over the cable, generally there will be one more insulating material. Due to these extra insulating buffer, these cables are robust and they offer high resistance to extreme weathers. And it also has disadvantage transmitting a power from one station to other station with a cable costs more when compared to transmit the same power with the wire. Moving on to the factors affecting the choice of a cable, these are the following factors which you need to consider while choosing the cable. The first one is cable cost and safety. If you might have observed on the roads at few places where transmission lines are near to the building, there is a chance for electrocution, so they are choosing overhead cable wires. Generally their aim is to reduce the chance of getting electrocuted. So these type of wires has less exposure to the extreme environment as they are off the ground and protected by the adjacent building. So for this type of wire, a lesser quality wire or a low cost wire can be used. But as to transmit the power from one place to other place with the underground transmission, generally, this underground cable is experienced by the lot of force or a pressure offered by the soil over it, and also there is a chance some places the wire may get flooded with the water. So these type of wire should be of a high quality, and to make this wire we have to follow high standards. So this type of a cable costs more when compared to this type of a cable. So depending upon the application, cost and a safety plays a crucial role. Similarly, the lifetime, depending upon the application on the cost, we will choose type of a wire which lasts long or which lasts a particular number of years. For example, in a mobile, if you want to use a particular cable to connect the battery with the circuit board, we generally choose a cable which lasts around 15 years or around 20 years, not more than that, because there is no necessity to build a wire which lasts more than 50 years, because a lifespan of latest mobile is around 5 to 10 years. Whereas for the transmission or any application where the lifespan of the particular application is more than a 50 years, a particular cable which lasts more than 50 years should be used. Moving on, permanency. Permanency means the ability to resist harsh weather or chemical attacks. So depending upon the application, if we are using a wire in a chemical industries, we need to choose a particular grade wire, and if you are using the wire at a normal air environment, we need to choose a particular grade wire. Moving on to the accessibility. If a particular application has more number of faults or more maintenance is required, we need to choose a particular wire which can be easily accessible or easily repairable. If we want to use a cable for applications where less maintenance is required, we need to choose other type of a grade cable. Similarly, for the appearance, if the cable is visible to the naked eye, generally we prefer the good appearance cable. If it is not visible to the naked eyes, or it is underground or inside the mobile, inside any equipment, then there is no need to consider this aspect in choosing the cable. Mechanical protection. The cable should resist mechanical damages, mechanical pressure, mechanical forces, and finally the maintenance cost should be less. Moving on, types of cable. Depending upon the different parameters, the cables are classified as follow. The first one is depending upon the type of a conductor used inside the cable. If the conductor used inside the cable is made up of aluminium, then it is called as a aluminium cable. If the material used inside the conductor is used inside the cable is copper, then it is called as a copper cable. Moving on, second type of a classification, the classification based on the input voltage. If we are using the cable for applications where low voltages are involved, then it is called as low voltage cable. If we are using the particular cable for applications where high voltages are involved, such as power transmission or substations, etc., then those type of cables are called as high voltage cables. Example for low voltage cable is electronic applications and secondary distribution, whereas for a high voltage application, primary and secondary transmission. The third one is classification based on number of cores. If a particular cable has a 2 cores, then it is called as a 2 core cable. If a cable has a 3 cores, then it is called a 3 core cable. If a cable has a 4 or 5, then it is called a 5 core cable. This is a cross sectional view of a 3 core cable. If you observe, this is a wire, insulated wire. Inside there will be a conductor, the one more insulated wire and one more insulated wire, and over on the top of it we have extra insulation provided to keep these three conductors together and also to protect these conductors from external environment. Next, moving on, next classification is based on insulating material is used. If the insulating material over here is used of a vulcanized Indian rubber, then it is called as a vulcanized Indian rubber cable. If it is made up of a PVC, then PVC cable. Then if it is a lead sheath, then it is called as a lead sheath cable. Now moving on to the other type of a classification, those classifications are based on the materials or and number of cores and physical look of the cable. But we can also classify cables as follow. This classification is based on the application. The first one is a twisted cable. If two wires, wire 1, wire 2, are twisted together to form a single, if two wires, wire 1, wire 2, are twisted together to form a single, if two wires, wire 1, wire 2, are twisted together to form a single, then it is called as a twisted cable. So this type of a cables are generally observed in wood extension box. So next type of a cable is a coaxial cable. In this type of a cable, there will be a multiple conductors. If you observe in this type of a cable, the center of each and every conductor will be at a same point. Example for this type of a cable is TV cable. For a TV cable, inside at the core there will be a copper conducting material. Over the copper conducting material there will be a white insulating material, and over the insulating white material there will be a mesh type of a conducting material. If you see, the origin or center of this conducting material will be this imaginary line, and also for this mesh type of a conducting material, the center will be also aligns with the imaginary line. So this type of a cables are called as a coaxial cable, which means the center or origin for all conducting materials will be a same. Example for this type of a cable is a TV cable. Moving on, the next type is multi-conductor cable. If a particular cable has more than two wires, then it is called as a multi-conductor cable. Example for this type of a cables are Ethernet cable or internet cable. For an Ethernet cable, generally there will be a or 8 wires, 6 or 8 wires. For a telephone cable, there will be more number of wires. I'm not sure. There will be more than 2 wires. So these types of cables are called as multi-conductor cable. And moving on to the final one, fiber optics cable. In fiber optics cable, instead of transmitting the data in the form of electricity, here we are going to transmit the data in the form of light. So the medium to transmit the light from one end to the other end will be a glass. A glass will be present, a thin strand of a glass. In this thin strand of a glass, at the one end light enters, from the other end the light can be collected. So depending upon the frequency of a light, we can transmit a data from one end to the other end. The optical fiber cable works on the principle of total internal reflection, which you learned in intermediate.